Hi everyone, Broomy here. Thanks for clicking on this video. Today, as the title suggests, we are going to run over some tips and tricks on how to build your own roll cage. Right, so why are we building a roll cage? Well, primarily it's pretty easy. It's to keep the person inside of it, probably you, safe in the event of an accident. There's a secondary benefit there to strengthening up the chassis of the car, but the safety is the main aspect we want because there's no use racing if you're not going to race safe. This car specifically, which is my car, 1993 RX7, has a full 6-point roll cage, which you'll see me build shortly, but it also has a fire suppression system, and I wear safety gear from head to toe as well. So with all that being said, let's run over first some of the tools you probably need to get this job done, and then let's detail all the part of the roll cage building step by step. Let's go. So some of the basic tools you'll need to get this job done, of course, some type of tube bender. Now, this is the one that I have, the affordable bender. It works quite well. You can obviously see it's got a mandrel and a draw through there and that, and just uses a standard mechanical hydraulic bottle jack. Works really well, fits really well with my budget because I don't do a lot of this kind of stuff, so that does the job well. You of course need a drill and some hole saws. You need a tape measure to make sure that they're to make sure the lengths of the tube you're cutting off are right. Definitely need probably either an angle grinder or a bandsaw. You want some type of tool lube for these because these are going to be getting a definite going over. And then, not necessary, but one of these hole saw cutout jigs are just incredibly worth their money. They're pretty cheap. I think these ones are probably about not far over $100, and the quality of job you get from this compared to trying to cut out a fish mouth of this and shape into that, this is much quicker and a better fit, so recommend that as well. I'm just starting out with the cage. Roll cages aren't overly complicated, but they aren't completely easy either. So you can get like an indicator. So we're going to start here basically in the center point, and you can put your angle finder there and another one over there, put some marks on the roof where you want and start bending. But the easy cheat way that I use is some preformed bends, and then put those in the gaps and then start from there. So let's go and take a look at what I'm talking about. This is the end where the bend starts, so I'm always going to start with that one there. It actually looks pretty good. You can see how closely it's following the line of the roof. Yeah, definitely going to do that. What we can do now is I can see here where I've left this mark. That's where I want to start the bend. So the easiest part about this is now. Easiest part about this is where we're going to start the bend, and this is right here is the center of the car. So what I know now is from here to here is 300. I'm going to say first bend at 300. If that's where the first bend is, and that's where the second bend starts, then the second bend is just a length. That bend will just be the length of this pipe, so 315. So this way. Second bend will be at 335. Okay, so not only have I got those measurements for this side, that means I've automatically got the measurements for the other side too, because you know the car's just a mirror image. So now it's just a case of going over to the bending machine and turning this into reality. This is the really scary part because these are just offcuts and samples, but once you bend up your big main hoop, that's sort of 3 meters of tube. You get that wrong, that is 3 meters of tube down the drain. So wish me luck. So this is where we're at now. We've marked everything. So we've got the center where the first bend needs to occur, the second on that side, and then on this side exactly the same thing. First bend, second bend, and you can see the cross mark. That's just that is just a line that gives us a reference so it stays true, because every time you move it in this bending machine, and here it is, every time you move it through this die, you've got a chance of moving it around. So marking the center just knows every time you push it through and pull it through on this end, you can still center it up. So all right, time to work that tube to that bender and give it a crack. First bend, 50 degrees. And there goes that. We are at 35. We are right on 50 now. I'm going to overshoot by 2 degrees because there's tension in this tube and you'll get some spring back. So I'll just go to 52. And the reason I know I'm going to 52 is because the test tube I also bent based on that same logic. Yep, that'll do. Alrighty. Now time to get the second one set up. Alright, bend number 2, as you can see, a little bit of an angle here, but we will live with that. Couple of degrees over, 31. It's right about 32 right there. So that is good to go. Alright, that is essentially one side of our center hoop done. And just like that, we have a main hoop. So best thing now is to chuck it in there and see how we go. So this is it. This is the roll cage sitting where it needs to sit, and those are some really good lines there. So I'm pretty happy with that. That main hoop will stay exactly like that. Lean back is about 5 degrees at the moment, but that's just because these haven't been cut down, and we'll make rocker boxes where, we'll cut this a bit shorter again, and there'll be a box that comes up that these weld to properly. So yeah, that's fine. Next part is to make these boxes for there and there, because what we want to do, we need this mounting in exactly the right place where it will be final welding position, because like I was saying, the reference for these bars and the rear stays all depend on this. So get those happening now, get this tacked in place even, and go from there. So with the main hoop being built, it's time to actually mount it in the car, because all the other bars, the front and the rear bars, will all locate off that main hoop. So what we want to do now is mount it temporarily in the car. And now what we've run into a situation here with the RX7, which you may run into it as well, is that the floor is not actually a flat surface. So it's angled down like that, pretty much, where we need to, where the chassis is the strongest and where we need to mount it. So you can imagine main hoop trying to come onto that. It's not the greatest situation. So one option is plate over that section and leave it like that, reinforce it, and then cut the tube on a certain angle, which can be a bit tricky because you're going to have to get that angle really, really exact, and there may be slight variations in the surface. The easier way is by making a box. So if we can make a box structure that then brings up the surface to flat, main hoop comes down and it's welded to a nice flat surface. So yeah, that's definitely what we're going to do, because it makes the job a hell of a lot easier. It's a hell of a lot easier to make a little box structure and attach that to the chassis and then just have the main hoop come down than to try and get the main hoop on a right angle and drill a hole in the chassis and stuff like that. So this is what we're going to do for this one, because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to work out. So sorted that now, and we'll give you a quick look at those boxes and how we make them. Easiest thing to make these boxes is by just getting a cardboard template. We'll make all 4 sizes first, so we'll lay them in the car, cut them out, transfer them over to this, and then we'll go over to the car now and I'll show you what they end up looking like. Okay, so here's those boxes, and you can see they're actually quite oversized, and the reason for that is because I want to get the tube where it needs to be, so I don't, until the tube is in the car and I bent into shape, I don't want to pre-make the box too small and have to make it again. So this case here, we've made the box as big as we have. It's quite clear where the tube is sitting, so we'll probably end up cutting this box somewhere here and taking half of this box out. Same thing over this one, and then we'll weld that in. And with that, I can just put it up that and use that as my marking template for where I will need to end up cutting the tube off here. So once that tube is cut as well, you can see there's excess tube down this box at the moment. Once that's cut, what that'll mean is I'll be able to drop this cage all the way down here. So this is actually, this will drop down. If that's say, just say this is 2.5 inches now, this cage will be able to drop 2.5 inches down. So then when you attach the front legs that come all the way over here, instead of having to try and weld up here, you'll be welding down about here. So it'll make it a whole lot easier. So main hoop, there it is in, and we're just mocking up this bar here. So that angle looks alright. This angle will come up a bit because we haven't made our bird mouth cut here yet. So we'll section that out now with our little machine, and we'll get that cut, and yeah, we'll see how close we get it with the machine. Then we might need to touch it up with the angle grinder, but once we've got that cut done, we'll be able to line up a bit more, and this bar will move up a little bit and it'll follow the line of that a bit better. But I'm fine with that how it is anyway. So time to make that cut. So here's a giant steel mustache, and that will be going in here. So it's just not far enough in behind this hump. So what we're going to do, also I'm not sure what's going to go on with the tunnel, so I didn't want to put a bar across here, only to have to remake some of the tunnel. So I thought if I make the bar, probably going to join to the rocker, come through, go over, come back down, go through here and weld to the rocker. And what we'll also do is I'll probably box these in on the back, and then I'll probably do some support off here as well. So I'll weld a panel to the chassis here and up to here, so then it'll have the top bar, the support off here as well. So that should be more than adequate. So we'll whack that in and see what it looks like. Right, so it's time to make the rear stays. So the main hoop's back in the car, and the rear stays will come off the main hoop and back to the factory chassis rails back here. Now, as you can see with the laser, it's not a perfect straight angle, so we will have to notch the tube on an angle. So what I've done here is just, I've got some straights, and I can see if I put a straight there, there's a huge gap on this side. So I've just jumped up on some angles, and it looks like 20 degrees will be it, and eyeballing it, 20 degrees looks about spot on. So if I put the 20 in there, you can see the pipe fit up, or I can feel the pipe fit up around the notched end is great, and you can see that the laser's running straight down the middle of the tube, which means we'll end up right spot on in the middle of down here where the laser runs. So time to notch some longer tube, which I have here. Same as the main hoop and the front stays, which is 1 5/8 inches. So we'll put a notch in that, see where it fits, and then we can just cut this end to suit later on. Okay, so our tubes are all notched out, awesome. However, now we don't have a surface to mount to such as this. So this is a a perfectly flat 90-degree angle. That won't work here because we're coming back off the roll cage tubing to here. Now, you can keep on doing several cuts until you get it right. However, if you paid attention to mathematics in school, you will know there's a very easy way to calculate this. So this is a triangle. Flat, side, side. So 3 sides, triangle. We know the distance from here to here. We know the distance from here to here, and we know one angle. That's 90 degrees, straight here. So knowing that this is approximately 900, from here to here is 500, that angle is 90. Plugging that into my old graphics calculator tells me the angle we need here is 60 degrees. So that's why you pay attention in school. Eventually, might lead to something. So we'll lean over to the old cutter now, and we'll cut that at 60, and these will be basically good to go. Booyah! All right, now all I've got to do is make up a little mounting plate for here. So we'll stitch weld a reinforcement 3mm plate to the top of this chassis rail here, and then we'll build up, just like we did with the main hoop, we'll build up a little box for a nice flat super solid surface for that to weld to, because what that'll enable us to do, if we get about, I don't know, say about 1.5 inches here, we'll be able to drop the main hoop down that 1.5 inches all the way around, so we can weld the top up here when we need to weld the front stays and these rear stays properly up the front. So, progress. Alrighty, main hoop is in, front stays are in, and we have the mounting plates for the rear arms. So you can see it's not mounted all the way around, and that is because that is what the ANDRA guidelines dictate. The reason for that is if one of those welds was to crack and they're welded all the way around, a crack will just follow all the way and crack. So if you just weld just in one section and a crack does happen to develop, it'll just crack that section and stop, and the rest will still be structurally intact. So that's great. These are fine, but you can see if we mount that up there and come here, we've obviously got there's about a 50 or so mil gap there, so which was planned, of course, which means we need another one of these. So it's another razor or rocker box or mounting box. So this is just how I've done it. Got a replica of the this mounting plate here, and that's just sitting on the bottom there. And then I've just built up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. What I'll do is I'll actually weld this piece to the bottom of here, because that's going to be pretty hard to get in all the way around there. And then once that's welded, I'll weld the box in as well as one piece, and then without the top being on, I'll move the cage forward, so the cage can go forward a fair bit. So if you have a look at this, I could actually just grab the cage and move it down and move it forward. So we'll fully weld the roll cage in. We can do the taxi bar and side intrusion bars later, but we'll get that cage welded in and we'll start on the rest. Okay, so minus sit rep, we have windscreen bar in. Obviously there's still a little bit of a gap here just up the top because the bottom legs are dropped, so we can weld it. Pretty happy with how that's looking. If we go rear stays are also in. Most of that's already welded in place, so that's good. We'll drop the boxes right there out soon, so we can just weld up the top, but that's a bulk of the cage, all the hard part of the cage really done. So after this, you can see I've just got to cut off the plate and fix up this area here, weld in the boxes there, and that should be done. So this is the last amount of really significant welding we've got to do on this. The rest of the stuff can be done pretty easy with the cage in place. So here we go. So that's pretty much it for this video. Don't ever really want to know if the roll cage works effectively or not, because that means you're going to be in an accident to test it out, and hopefully we never cross that bridge. But you know, it's been built how it needs to be built. It's going to pass all the tech, so everything's ticked off there. Got the chassis strength benefits from it as well. So yeah, I guess now it's off to racing and have some fun with it. So if you want to see more of these kind of videos where I detail every little component of the build of this car, please subscribe. You'll be the first to know when they get uploaded. But yeah, until then, I'll see you at the racetrack. See you later.